They laughed at her for being a black woman and a mechanic. "I'll give you $100,000 if you fix this," until the engine roared. "$100,000 if you can get this Lamborghini running," Marcus Wellington III declared, adjusting his Rolex watch as he watched the black woman in dirty overalls standing next to his broken-down supercar. "But when you fail, and you'll fail, I want you to admit in front of everyone that women don't know anything about engines." Keisha Johnson, 28, stood motionless at the humiliating proposition. Around her, at the prestigious Platinum Motors dealership in Beverly Hills, at least 15 wealthy men watched the scene as if it were a circus spectacle. Their laughter echoed off the marble walls as they placed bets among themselves on how long it would take her to give up. The situation had escalated quickly. Keisha had walked into the dealership just to pick up a part she had ordered for her small suburban repair shop. But when she politely corrected a misdiagnosis the head mechanic was making on Marcus's Lamborghini Huracan, the humiliation began. "Look at this, everyone," Marcus had shouted for all to hear. "The little lady here thinks she knows more than our factory-certified expert." He paused dramatically. "I bet she doesn't even know the difference between a piston and a carburetor." What Marcus didn't know was that Keisha had grown up taking apart engines at her grandfather's junkyard, had earned an honors degree in mechanical engineering, and had spent 3 years secretly working as a technical consultant for one of the nation's largest automakers. But her youthful appearance, black skin, and female gender created a combination that made wealthy men completely underestimate her abilities. "So, young lady," Marcus continued, his voice dripping with condescension, "my Lumbo has been out of commission for 2 weeks. 4 different mechanics have given up. It's a problem with the electronic fuel injection system that no one can figure out." He crossed his arms. "If you're as good as you think you are, prove it." Keisha looked at the car for a few seconds, immediately noticing signs that the other mechanics had overlooked. Small details in the position of the cables, the irregular sound of the engine when he tried to start it, the specific color of the smoke coming out of the exhaust. To her, it was like reading an open book. "What if I can?" she asked calmly, her voice betraying neither irritation nor intimidation. "Impossible," Marcus laughed loudly. "But if by some miracle you can, I'll pay you $100,000 right now. Cash." He paused maliciously. "But when you fail, not only will you admit your incompetence, you'll have to apologize to everyone here for wasting our time with this female mechanic charlatan." The men around them began to murmur among themselves. $100,000 was serious money, even in that social circle. Some took out their cell phones to record what was sure to be an epic humiliation. Keisha took a deep breath, remembering her grandfather's words, "Daughter, engines don't see color or gender. Engines just want to work right." For years, she had faced similar situations, men who doubted her competence before even seeing her work. "I accept," she said simply. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of a camera being turned on. Marcus extended his hand with a predatory smile. "It's a deal. But get ready for humiliation, because it's going to be public." As they shook hands, Keisha kept her expression serene. What those privileged men didn't know was that every act of contempt was about to become the catalyst for a lesson none of them would ever forget. If this story of prejudice and overcoming adversity has touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what happened next changed the way those men view competence and respect forever. The first sign that Marcus wasn't joking came when he called his friends. "Guys, you have to come here and see this," he said on the phone, laughing loudly. "A black woman is trying to fix my Lumbo. Yes, you heard right. It's going to be the entertainment of the afternoon." Keisha watched silently as the dealership turned into a circus arena. Within 15 minutes, at least 20 wealthy men had arrived, all curious to witness what Marcus announced as the humiliation of the century. Some even placed side bets on how long it would take her to give up. "Look everyone," Marcus announced dramatically, "I'd like to introduce you to our supercar expert." He made air quotes, eliciting laughter from those present. "She's going to show us how a woman fixes what 4 certified men couldn't." What hurt the most wasn't the laughter or the snide comments. It was the look. That look Keisha had known since she was 8 years old, when her father first took her to her grandfather's junkyard. The same look she got when she tried to join the boys in taking apart engines. The same look she got from college professors who questioned her presence in advanced engineering classes. "You know what amuses me the most?" Marcus continued, now clearly showing off for the audience. "It's that she actually believes she can do it. Look at her confidence. He paused dramatically. I bet she watched a few videos on YouTube and now she thinks she's a professional mechanic. The most painful memory came back in a flash. Keisha was 16 when she got an internship at a reputable repair shop. On her first day, the supervisor put her to work organizing tools and cleaning the floor. Women are good at organizing, not fixing, he had said in front of all the other male interns, who were immediately given technical jobs. Hey lady, Marcus's voice brought her back to the present. Are you still there, or have you given up? Because if you've changed your mind, you can leave now without embarrassing yourself. Keisha took a deep breath and walked over to the Lamborghini. Her hands touched the hood of the car with the delicacy of someone who knows expensive machines. Immediately, she felt something that the other mechanics had missed, an almost imperceptible vibration that indicated a specific problem in the electronic management system. Can I open the hood? She asked calmly. Sure, Professor, Marcus replied sarcastically. But I'll tell you now, you'll see the same thing the other four saw. An engine too complex for. He stopped abruptly when he saw Keisha's expression change. She had identified the problem in less than 30 seconds. It wasn't just a matter of electronic fuel injection. Someone had installed an incompatible performance chip that was causing conflicts in the engine management system. It was a mistake that only inexperienced or dishonest mechanics would make. Who was the last person to work on this car? She asked, her voice remaining professional. What does it matter? Marcus replied defensively. The problem is that it doesn't work. You said you could fix it. Keisha noticed something interesting. Marcus' sudden defensiveness, the way he looked away when she mentioned who had worked on the car. There was a story there, and she was beginning to suspect what it might be. Of course I'll fix it, she said simply. But I need some specific tools that you probably don't have here. What tools? One of the dealership mechanics asked, clearly uncomfortable with her confidence. A European diagnostic scanner for post-2020 Lamborghini systems, an ECU reprogramming kit, and a few other technical things that, she stopped when she saw the confused expressions. Things that mechanics who specialize in supercars should know. The awkward silence that followed was broken by Marcus. Special tools, huh? I bet that's just an excuse for not knowing where to start. It's not an excuse, Keisha replied, reaching for her cell phone. I'm calling my supplier. The tools will be here in 2 hours. What she didn't say was that her supplier was actually a contact at the car manufacturer where she had worked secretly for 3 years. A contact who would not only lend her the tools, but who could also confirm her true professional identity if necessary. While she was on the phone, Marcus approached his friends. 2 hours of free theater, he muttered loud enough for her to hear. Let's see how far she takes this charade. Keisha hung up the phone and faced Marcus directly. The tools will be here in 2 hours. Can I get to work now, or would you rather continue with the comments? You can work, Marcus said with a cruel smile. But when you fail, and you will fail, I want you to admit that you tried to humiliate men who have been working hard on cars for years. Perfect, Keisha replied, her voice maintaining a calm that puzzled some of the more attentive observers. And when I do, I hope you have the same courage to admit your own mistakes. Each new taunt only fueled something inside Keisha that those privileged men couldn't see, a determination forged by years of struggles they would never face. What none of them realized was that each malicious comment was writing her own lesson in humility, and that the real storm was yet to come. The 2 hours passed in a climate of growing tension. Marcus and his friends had turned the wait into a private party, ordering expensive champagne and making increasingly cruel bets on how Keisha would fail. Some even filmed videos for social media, preparing the content they planned to post about the woman who tried to cheat rich men. I bet the tools won't even arrive, laughed Jonathan Berkshire, heir to a chain of hotels. It was probably just an excuse to buy time before admitting she doesn't know anything. Keisha remained seated in a chair in the corner, seemingly ignoring the comments. But in fact, she was watching Marcus's every reaction. Every time someone mentioned previous mechanics or work done on the car, he became visibly uncomfortable. There was definitely something he didn't want to be discovered. When the Advanced Automotive Solutions truck pulled up, the room fell silent. This was no ordinary repair van, but a specialized vehicle loaded with equipment that cost more than most cars on the lot. Keisha Johnson? Asked the tall man who stepped out of the truck, wearing a spotless mechanic's uniform. That's me, David, she replied, rising calmly. David Morrison was a senior engineer in the performance division of Lamborghini North America. For 3 years, he had been Keisha's direct supervisor when she worked secretly as a technical consultant. He knew her skills better than anyone in that room. "I brought everything you asked for," he said, beginning to unload equipment that made the dealership mechanics look at each other with expressions of surprise. A professional diagnostic scanner, a factory ECU reprogramming kit, specific tools that even authorized dealerships didn't have. "David, this is a bit of an unusual situation," Keisha said quietly, discreetly pointing to the crowd of men watching their every move. "I saw you on the security cameras when you arrived," he replied, equally discreet. "I also noticed that the problem is probably not just technical. Would you like me to stay and provide support?" David's offer was more significant than Marcus could have imagined. Keisha wasn't just gaining a technical assistant, she was gaining an official Lamborghini witness for any discoveries she might make about unauthorized modifications to the vehicle. "That would be great," she replied, knowing that David's presence would completely change the dynamics of the situation. Marcus approached nervously. "Who is this guy? You can't bring outside help to an individual test." David Morrison, senior engineer at Lamborghini North America, David introduced himself, extending an official corporate card. "I'm here solely to provide technical support with specialized equipment. Miss Johnson will do all the diagnostic work." The card passed from hand to hand among the onlookers. The circus atmosphere had changed to something much more serious. Suddenly, this was no longer cruel entertainment, but a real professional situation with an official representative of the car manufacturer present. Official Lamborghini," stammered one of Marcus' friends. "She knows people at Lamborghini?" Keisha connected the first piece of equipment to the car, and immediately the screen displayed information that made David frown. "Keisha, are you seeing this?" he muttered, pointing to specific codes that appeared in the diagnostic report. "I see it," she replied, her voice maintaining its professional tone, but her eyes sparkling with something that looked like satisfaction. "The ECU was reprogrammed with unauthorized software approximately 3 months ago. A third-party performance chip was installed without proper calibration." "That's serious," David said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Unauthorized modifications can completely void the vehicle's warranty and create serious safety issues." Marcus turned visibly pale. "Wait a minute, that has nothing to do with the test. She just needs to get the car running." "Actually, it has everything to do with it," Keisha replied, continuing the diagnosis. "Because whoever installed those modifications did such a poor job that they created conflicts in the system that prevent the engine from running properly." Over the next hour, Keisha worked methodically, removing each unauthorized modification. Her hands moved with the precision of someone who had done this kind of work hundreds of times. David watched her with growing admiration, remembering why she had been one of the company's most respected consultants. "Interesting," she commented, examining the removed chip. "This one is counterfeit. It looks like a premium performance chip, but it's actually a cheap replica that could permanently damage the engine if used for very long." "Counterfeit." David leaned in to examine it. "This is serious. Counterfeit chips are dangerous and illegal. Whoever installed this put the owner in real danger." Marcus was now visibly sweating. "Look, maybe we should stop here. The important thing is that the car works, not investigating." "Mr. Wellington," Keisha interrupted, her voice calm but firm. "You mentioned that 4 different mechanics tried to fix this car. May I ask where the last modifications were made?" I don't remember exactly," Marcus stammered. David checked something on his tablet and frowned even more. "Mr. Wellington, our records show that this vehicle has never undergone any authorized modifications. Any performance work should have been reported to our headquarters." "Records?" one of Marcus' friends asked. "You have records of everything?" "Of course," David replied. "Every Lamborghini has a complete history of maintenance, modifications, and diagnostics, especially when it involves changes to the electronic system." Keisha continued working, but now with a dual purpose. She wasn't just repairing the car, she was collecting evidence. Every counterfeit part, every poorly done modification, every sign of unprofessional work was being documented by official Lamborghini equipment. "David," she said, connecting the last cable, "would you please record an official technical report on what we found here?" "Of course," he replied, immediately understanding the importance of the request. Full report on unauthorized modifications, counterfeit parts, and potential damage to the vehicle. The silence in the workshop was deafening. The men who had been cracking cruel jokes just an hour earlier now watched as a serious technical investigation was conducted by professionals who clearly knew far more about luxury cars than any of them. Marcus tried one last card. Look, this is all very interesting, but the deal was simple. Either you make the car work, or you admit you can't. Keisha stopped working and looked directly at him. Mr. Wellington, the car will work. Perfectly. But now we have a more serious situation here. She paused dramatically. Because someone clearly tried to cheat you out of your money by selling you fake and dangerous modifications. And I have a feeling you know exactly who that was. The look on Marcus's face revealed that she had hit the nail on the head. There was much more to this story than a cruel bet, and Keisha was determined to uncover the whole truth. David finished setting up the last piece of equipment and looked over at Keisha. Everything's ready for the final test. Perfect, she replied, her hands positioning themselves on the ignition key. Let's see if 3 years of developing electronic systems for Lamborghini has taught me anything. As everyone held their breath, Keisha realized she was about to prove much more than her technical competence. She was about to expose a network of fraud that likely extended far beyond that Lamborghini, and Marcus Wellington III was beginning to realize he had bet on the wrong person. The moment of truth arrived when Keisha turned the key in the Lamborghini. The engine didn't just start, it roared with a power and precision that made the walls of the dealership shake. It was the sound of an Italian machine running exactly as its engineers had designed it to run, with no interference, no cheap modifications, no lies. The silence that followed lasted only 3 seconds before the explosion of reactions. The men who had spent hours mocking Keisha now looked at each other with expressions of utter shock. Marcus Wellington III, specifically, looked like he had seen a ghost. Impossible, he muttered, approaching the car as if it were a mirage. How did you do that? Simple, Keisha replied, turning off the engine and stepping out of the vehicle with the calmness of someone who had just completed a routine task. I removed all unauthorized modifications, replaced the counterfeit parts with original components, and reprogrammed the electronic system to factory specifications. David Morrison approached with his tablet, showing the data collected during the process. Mr. Wellington, I need to officially inform you of what we found during the diagnostic. His voice had changed to a formal, serious tone. This vehicle had undergone extremely dangerous modifications that not only voided its warranty, but put your safety at real risk. What kind of risk? Asked Jonathan Berkshire, the hotel heir, clearly nervous. The counterfeit performance chip was causing the engine to overheat, Keisha explained, pointing to the data on her tablet. A few more weeks of use and you would have witnessed a catastrophic engine failure, possibly with fire. Marcus turned visibly pale. Fire? Are you trying to scare me? I'm not trying anything, David replied dryly. I'm stating technical facts. Miss Johnson saved your life by identifying and correcting these modifications. He paused significantly. Incidentally, Miss Johnson isn't just any mechanic. She is Keisha Johnson, former senior consultant to our performance engineering division. A murmur of surprise rippled through the crowd. Former consultant? Someone asked. For 3 years, Miss Johnson was responsible for developing and testing electronic systems in our most advanced models, David continued, clearly proud to make the official introduction. She has certifications that most mechanics only dream of achieving. Marcus tried to regain some control of the situation. Okay, she fixed the car. Congratulations. Where's my money? Hold on a second, Keisha said, holding an envelope David had discreetly handed her. Before we talk about payment, we need to discuss some interesting findings about who installed these dangerous modifications in your car. The look on Marcus's face changed instantly. What findings? David opened his laptop and connected a portable projector he had brought with him. During our analysis, we found something fascinating. The screen showed a series of numbers and codes. The counterfeit chip installed in your vehicle has a traceable serial number. So what? Marcus asked, but his voice sounded uncertain. This specific chip was sold by a company called Performance Plus Modifications, Keisha continued, carefully watching Marcus's reaction. A company that, interestingly, lists you as the majority shareholder. The silence in the workshop was absolute. All eyes turned to Marcus, who was now visibly sweating. "This is ridiculous," he tried to protest. "I never—" "Mr. Wellington," David interrupted, showing official documents on the screen. "We have the corporate records here. Performance Plus modifications. Tax ID number 87.742.921/0001-63. Majority shareholder, Marcus Wellington III. 60% of the shares." The revelation was like a bomb. Marcus had installed counterfeit parts in his own car and then blamed incompetent mechanics, creating a narrative that justified his prejudices while profiting from selling dangerous products to other luxury car owners. "Wait," Jonathan Berkshire approached, clearly disturbed. "Marcus, you installed fake parts in your own car? Why?" Keisha took another document from the envelope. "Because he needed evidence that traditional mechanics were incompetent. He created a problem he knew wouldn't be easily solved, so he could use it as justification for selling his own solutions." "And that's not all," David added, showing more data. "Our records show that at least 15 other Lamborghini owners have purchased modifications from this company in the last 6 months. All with the same dangerous problems." One of Marcus's friends, a man named Richard Foster, was livid. "Marcus, you sold me a performance kit last month. My Aventador has been having problems for weeks." "And I bought one for my Ferrari," another man shouted. "You assured me it was factory original." The situation had completely changed. Marcus wasn't just a prejudiced rich man making cruel bets. He was a fraudster who was putting lives at risk while spreading racist and sexist propaganda to cover up his crimes. "Mr. Wellington," David said formally, "as an official representative of Lamborghini, I must inform you that we have launched a formal investigation into unauthorized modifications sold by your company. In addition, our attorneys will be contacting you regarding trademark violations and unauthorized use of our logos on counterfeit products." Keisha approached Marcus, who was now visibly panicking. "About our original bet," she said calmly. "You promised me $100,000 if I fixed your car. The car is running perfectly." But, Marcus stammered. "But you also said that if I failed, you'd admit that women don't understand engines," Keisha continued. "Well, your car is running, so now it's your turn to admit a few things." David turned on a professional camera he had brought with him. "For legal purposes, we'll need to record your official confession about the fraudulent modifications." Marcus looked around the room, seeing only faces filled with anger and disgust. His own friends stared at him as if he were a dangerous stranger. In a matter of hours, he had gone from a respected wealthy man to a publicly exposed fraud. "Keisha," he tried, his voice now pleading. "Can we talk privately? Maybe we can work something out." "There is no deal," she replied firmly. "Not only did you try to humiliate me for being a woman and black, you put lives at risk by selling defective products and used prejudice to cover up your crimes." Jonathan Berkshire stepped away from Marcus, visibly disgusted. "Man, you're disgusting. You tried to use racism and sexism to cover up the fact that you're a criminal." David closed his laptop and addressed everyone present. "Gentlemen, as an official representative of Lamborghini, I strongly recommend that anyone who has purchased modifications for Mr. Wellington's company immediately contact an authorized dealership for a safety review." While Marcus tried to process the complete destruction of his reputation and possibly his freedom, Keisha calmly put away her tools. She showed neither anger nor vindictiveness, just the quiet satisfaction of someone who had served justice with technical competence and moral integrity. "David," she said, "can you send a copy of the technical report to the police? I think they'll want to investigate how many people were put at risk by these modifications." What had started as a cruel bet based on prejudice had turned into the complete exposure of a criminal scheme, and Marcus Wellington III was discovering that betting against the wrong person can cost a lot more than $100,000. It can cost everything. 6 months later, Keisha was signing the contract that made her technical director of the largest luxury car dealership network on the West Coast. Her salary had increased 400%, and she now oversaw a team of 80 expert mechanics. "Miss Johnson," said the CEO during the ceremony, "your exposure of the Performance Plus fraud scheme saved our industry from a much bigger scandal. 17 dealerships have already implemented your security protocols." The story had gone viral on social media. The video of Marcus's forced confession reached 2 million views in 48 hours, turning Keisha into a national symbol of technical competence and professional integrity. Marcus Wellington III, on the other hand, faced a very different fate. His company was shut down by the FBI, he lost $80 million in lawsuits, and his former wealthy friends shunned him like the bubonic plague. The last public record showed him working as a salesman at a used car dealership, earning minimum wage. Ironic, isn't it? David Morrison remarked during Keisha's promotion party. The man who said women don't understand engines now works for a network whose security protocol was created by a black woman he tried to humiliate. Keisha smiled, watching her diverse team celebrate. 40% were women, 30% were black, all hired solely for their technical skills, not their looks or family connections. "You know what my best revenge was," she said to David. "It wasn't destroying Marcus. It was proving that excellence has no color or gender, and that prejudice is simply a waste of talent." The real victory wasn't in the $100,000 Marcus paid, but in the complete transformation of an entire industry. Keisha had proven that the best response to prejudice isn't anger, it's competence so unquestionable that it forces the world to recognize your excellence. Marcus tried to destroy her using racism and sexism, but he only destroyed himself. Keisha learned that true revenge is not getting back at those who hurt you, it's achieving success that your enemies could never imagine. If this story of transformation and justice touched you, subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that competence always beats prejudice, and that sometimes karma needs a little technical help from us.